The phone buzzed once, just once. A quiet vibration against the marble kitchen counter. The kind of sound most people ignore. But I didn't. Because it wasn't my phone. It was hers. And she had just stepped into the shower upstairs. Steam hissed through the pipes above me. Water running, safe, or so she thought. The screen lit up. One message preview, 3 words, and a black heart. Miss you already. The sender's name made my stomach go still. Daniel Kessler, venture capitalist, public philanthropist, married father of 2. And apparently, my wife's secret. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't breathe for a moment either, because the black heart wasn't romantic. Not the red one lovers send when they're pretending. The black one meant something else. Intimate, private, predatory. A symbol between people who share secrets no one else can see. Footsteps upstairs. Water shutting off. My wife humming softly. Carefree. Meanwhile, my world tilted a few degrees off its axis. Not enough to collapse. Just enough to reveal the cracks that had probably been there all along. I placed the phone exactly where it had been. Then I poured myself another cup of coffee. My hands were steady. That surprised me. But the real surprise was something else. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious. My wife had always been impressive. Charming. Sharp. The kind of woman who could command a room. Full of investors and leave them. Grateful for the privilege. I admired that about her. Maybe that's why I ignored the small shifts. Late meetings. Private calls. Trips that lasted a day longer than necessary. Little things. Things you dismiss when you trust someone. Or when you want to trust them. Daniel Kessler appeared in our lives 8 months earlier. A partnership opportunity. Her startup needed capital. His firm needed visionary leadership. At least that's what the press release said. They shook hands in a photograph that ended up on 3 business magazines. I remember studying it. Something about the way they looked at each other. Too comfortable. Too familiar. But I told myself I was imagining things. Successful people form fast alliances. That's normal, right? Then the messages began. Not openly. Never where I could see them. But sometimes she'd smile at her phone in a way that didn't belong to me. And now, the black heart. A tiny symbol, but symbols carry weight, especially between 2 people who believe no one else is watching. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions, because questions give liars time to prepare. Instead, I started watching, listening, remembering, and slowly, a pattern emerged. I kept smiling at breakfast. Kissed her goodbye when she left for meetings. Played the role of supportive husband perfectly. Meanwhile, I started collecting evidence. First, the financials. Her company accounts were easy enough to access. I had helped structure them years earlier. What I found wasn't illegal. Not immediately. But it was creative. Investor funds moving between shell partnerships. Consulting payments to a small advisory firm. Guess who owned it? Daniel Kessler. Interesting. Then I checked travel logs. Her conferences. Her pitch meetings. Funny coincidence. Daniel always seemed to be in the same city. Paris. Boston. Zurich. Patterns. Again and again. Still, I needed certainty. Emotion is useless without proof. So I hired someone who specializes in quiet truths. Private investigators are remarkable people. They don't judge. They just observe. 3 weeks later, the report arrived. No dramatic envelope. Just a digital folder, photos, hotel lobbies, restaurants, and finally, a balcony in Geneva. My wife, wrapped in a white robe, leaning against Daniel Kessler. Close. Too close for business partners. Her phone lit up in the photo. And there it was again. The black heart. I stared at the image for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because something else clicked into place. Their relationship wasn't just personal. It was strategic. Daniel had been steering investment decisions. Her company valuations. Media coverage. They weren't just lovers. They were manipulating markets. Together. And suddenly, this wasn't a marriage problem anymore. It was fraud. 2 days later, I invited her to dinner. Our favorite restaurant. Quiet lighting. Expensive wine. She looked radiant. Relaxed. The way guilty people often do when they believe their secret is safe. We talked about ordinary things. Her latest funding round. A charity gala. My daughter-in-law complaining about Thanksgiving plans. At one point, my wife laughed. Apparently, I'm only welcome if I wash dishes, she said. I smiled slightly. Then I slid a small envelope across the table. She frowned. What's this? Just something you should see. Inside were 3 photographs. Geneva balcony, white robe, Daniel Kessler's arm around her waist. Her smile disappeared instantly. The color drained from her face. She looked up at me. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, "You followed me?" I shook my head slowly. "No." I took a sip of wine. "I verified you." Her hands trembled. But the most fascinating thing was this. She still hadn't apologized. "I already froze the accounts," I said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "Your company's operating capital." I set another document on the table. Bank authorization notices, board directives, emergency audits. Her breathing became shallow. "You can't do that." "I already did." She stared at the papers, then at me, confusion turning into fear. "You're not on the board anymore," she said weakly. I leaned back. "No." "But the investors trust me." I let that sink in. Because yesterday, every major investor received the same file I did. Photos, financial transfers, connections to Daniel's advisory firm, market manipulation, fraud. Daniel Kessler's firm opened an internal investigation this morning. His board suspended him before lunch. Meanwhile, regulators were already asking questions about my wife's company. She looked shattered. For the first time in years, she had lost control of the narrative. "Why?" she whispered. The question was almost innocent. I studied her calmly. "Because betrayal is expensive." Then I stood up. "One more thing," I added. She looked up desperately. "I sold the house this morning." Her lips parted. "Where will we live?" I paused, then gave the only honest answer. "We won't." 3 weeks later, I arrived in Switzerland, a quiet villa overlooking Lake Geneva. Ironically, the same city where the photograph had been taken. My daughter-in-law called yesterday. Apparently, she had seen the pictures online. My wife's scandal had spread through every financial publication in America. Investors lost millions. Careers collapsed. Reputations evaporated. And Daniel Kessler? He disappeared from the boardrooms that once worshipped him. Today, my daughter-in-law called again, angry, demanding. "If you want to join Thanksgiving," she shouted through the phone, "come wash the dishes!" I said 2 words. "Enjoy yourselves." Then I sent her a photo. The villa, the mountains, the lake. Within an hour, my phone rang 71 times. Family, apologies, excuses. Greed has a remarkable way of revealing itself. I ignored every call, because silence is the cleanest form of revenge. I poured a glass of wine and watched the sun sink behind the Alps. And for the first time in months, I felt absolutely nothing, which is how you know the war is truly over.